You might have money in your bank account and in your business account, but do you actually know if your company's truly profitable and you're on pace to scale, or do you just have money?
So we all want to make six figures inside of our home service pressure washing business. And on today's show, you're going to hear from our guest, Doug Rucker, and he ends up breaking down what you have to think about and what you have to do in order to make, he said, $1 million in 1 year.
Yeah.
And then make sure you pay attention. He ends up sharing the 6 words that every home service company needs to ask every single customer.
Now, welcome out our friend, Doug Rucker. Hey, Doug, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. How are y'all?
Far better than we deserve, for sure. It's been a long break since we've been together. And so we're kind of just excited to be recording together. And then you being our first guest of a new series that we just launched on how to be a profitable and purpose-driven pressure washing company. So we've been talking about purpose for a long time, but over the next several weeks, we're bringing on guests like yourself, and you're going to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience with other pressure washing companies on how they can make their pressure washing company profitable.
Awesome. This will be fun.
All right, I kind of warned you before the show that I had a question for you, and here's the question.
Okay.
Purpose or profits? Which has been more challenging for you to acquire over the years?
Purpose or profit? Man, that is okay. I thought you said this was going to be fun. That's wow. I would say those both kind of went hand in hand. Part of becoming profitable had a lot to do with us defining our purpose and what we were going to concentrate on. That's one of the things I was going to talk about. I thought there'd be a different question for this part, but yeah, you really knocked it out of the park with that one. Once we kind of honed in and stopped trying to be all things to all people, and kind of not necessarily a niche where we did one little thing, but having that purpose of what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. That's really what helped us become profitable, and not wasting time on things that necessarily we weren't good at, or necessarily that we didn't want to do, which meant we didn't enjoy some of the jobs that we were doing, type thing. So, and then understanding that sometimes you don't become profitable until you can, you can define your purpose and exactly what type of customers that you are going to work with, what type of customers that you want. That was another huge thing. So I guess I'd have to say, give the edge to the purpose, especially if you're just starting a business. You've got to start. Don't quit laughing at me. Okay.
No. He's doing something weird over here with his arms. He's trying to show off his muscles or something.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm dialed in.
Back and forth on purpose and profit, but man, they're just so equal. But I would encourage anybody that's just starting a business to get that purpose defined first, of exactly what type of service or services that you're going to offer, and keep those kind of narrow. And that's going to help you produce the profitability that you're going to need. If you go out and try to be all things to all people, and just take on anything and everything, it's going to be a rougher go. I know you got to eat. I know you got to bring food in, and every job is a paycheck, especially in residential at the end of the day. But as you get going, you really got to try to get that purpose home.
Now, are you telling me that you eventually came to a place where you were able to say no to certain jobs, or was it hiring certain people? Like you were okay with saying no to certain people on a hire, or you just defined, hey, these are the services we want to offer. We're going to say no to everything else to stay like upstream, or is it like all of the above?
It was absolutely defining the type of service or services that we were going to offer and or do. For instance, we got to the point where if a customer called and just wanted a driveway cleaned, that's not something that we would necessarily do. Or You have the customer that calls and says, I need a price to clean out the gutters. Okay. Do you need anything else done? Your house washed, your roof cleaned, driveway? No, I've got all that. I got a pressure washer and I do all that myself. In fact, I just need the second story gutters cleaned because I already did the first story myself. Okay. So that's telling me right there, there's not a whole lot of lifetime value in that customer other than just going out and cleaning the second story gutter. So that's the kind of thing that we would say, no, that's not what we do. We have, basically we didn't tell the customer this, but we had minimum stops that we needed to make and produce minimum revenue per stop. So, and then if always with employees, we would always pick and choose employees. Most of our employees came from our church. So we did, really well through there.
Well, Daddy likey, and we're going to dig into the profitability of those different services in a few minutes. But I just wanted you to go back to when you were a kid and when you were, sitting there in the lunchroom. Were you imagining yourself one day becoming a pressure washer superhero, blasting away crime with the power of water? Or did life take you by surprise and you left your childhood ambition to start your pressure washing business?
It actually was not a childhood ambition. I never actually really thought and never really knew a pressure washer existed. Back then when I was a child, I wanted to be a professional basketball player. I loved playing basketball. But it was in high school when I took on a part-time job working for a pressure washing company in Clearwater, Florida, where I lived. And some members of our church owned a pressure washing company. They built machines. They sold all the, the parts, the soaps, the chemicals. It was called Master Clean. They were located in Largo, Florida, and they would let me go out at night and clean GTE, Florida Power trucks, occasional parking garages, prep houses for paint. And that's when I really just fell in love with taking a gas-powered water pistol, basically, and taking something that was really ugly and dirty and making it look brand new. So still didn't know at that time that's what I was going to do, quite a few years later. But
yeah, I feel like that's a lot of people's story where you just somehow discover that. I remember when Josh and I first met and he said, I'm starting a pressure washing company. I'm like, people start companies, but isn't that just something, like you said, the customer earlier, everybody just has one of those? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing that people would do on like a mass scale. So like when you first saw numbers rolling in, did you think, good grief, this is a gold mine? Or were you like, wait, are we sure this isn't just monopoly money or something? At what point did you start going, I think this is something I can scale?
Well, the first business I bought was from a guy in our church back in 1995, I think it was. I had done pressure washing leading up to that, just on a little small scale. It wasn't really a registered business or anything, but it's how I'd make some side money. And then I bought a little business from an older gentleman from our church. It had a van with 2 little pressure washers in it. And I'd go out and clean tile roofs by wanding and all of that. And it really wasn't until I did that for 5 or 6 years and then moved to Houston, started a new business out here, bought a trailer rig, bought a truck and all that kind of stuff. And still just kind of operated it as, at that time, it was party money, basically. Okay.
So profit money right there. The purpose.
Correct.
Might not have been there yet.
Doing the old, hiding money from my wife and, just buying stuff I shouldn't be buying and all that kind of stuff. It was probably around 2006, 2007, after I'd gotten saved and really started looking at it from a business standpoint, and I was still working by myself. I can remember the day I looked up on QuickBooks and saw through June by myself, I had booked about $250,000.
Good grief, dude.
Had done by myself, hiring an occasional helper to pull hoses and stuff like that, high school kid or whatever.
Hold on. I have to stop you. 250K in 1 month as basically a solopreneur.
No. January through June.
Okay, gosh, I was like,
That's 6
that's
months.
incredible. Still, as
Yeah.
just so you were on pace for half a
$500,000.
million.
That
It's basically a solopreneur.
I got up from my computer and walked downstairs and told my wife, I said, Kathy, I just looked at QuickBooks and I'm on pace to do $500,000 in pressure washing. I said, I need some help. And so we started hiring and adding trucks, and we did very well for 4 or 5 years. And I was still doing the school as well. And so it was really at that point, to answer your question, when I looked on QuickBooks, I knew I had been busy. I knew I had some large jobs, and those jobs by myself would take me a day and a half, 2 days or whatever. So it was at that point where I really, really got into looking at it as a business standpoint.
Now, when you were moving forward into scaling the business, were there ever moments you wished you could go back to when you were doing $500,000 as a solopreneur? I'm just speaking just financially here. Were there ever moments you wish you could have gone back?
There were, but it was always something at a time when something bad happened. We killed a few plants, or we damaged a door, broke a window, or whatever. It was that kind of stuff. A guy lost a ladder off a trailer one time. Of course, he was fired immediately because I had a staunch rule: the driver has to check the load, and if we lose something, you're fired. And so he did. But yeah, I had many moments like that. Not many, but anytime something bad happened, you always think, man, if I was been out there and by myself, this would not have happened.
Well, there's that, and then there's also like, as more people are eating from the pie, I mean, $500,000 as a solopreneur, I can do a little bit of math there and think, man, probably personal finances got to be close to at least 250 you could bring home as a solopreneur or more. And like, as more people start eating a little bit of the blackberry pie that you got, it's like, okay, not only are they taking more of the pie, they're losing ladders, they're breaking bases, they're not showing up on time,
killing fishies,
killing koi that costs $1,000 a piece to repair.
Yeah, well, I knew about koi, and I never touched any house that had koi fish. I just said, I'm not touching it unless you get the fish out, drain it, and get it clean when we're done. I'm not risking it.
I want to take a break from the show to tell you something that we have been working on. It's kind of like the cat out of the bag. It has been a dream for Brady and I to be able to create a store that you can go to and get everything that you need to start and scale a pressure washing company. And so one of the problems that you run into is you don't always know who to trust, who to buy from, what coaching to take, how much to price jobs for, and also getting coaching to continue to grow throughout the year. Well, we've created a one-stop shop called mysoftwashstore.com, where you can get video courses, you can get whatever kind of training that you're needing,
access to relationships we have.
Yeah, different marketing tools that we utilize, from CRMs to nice jobs, different partners. But also it gives you our relationships with our chemicals, our equipment, our supplies. You can order it all right through one spot. And then we also have continual training that we can offer you if you're trying to scale to multiple $1 million inside your own pressure washing company.
Yeah. So the simple thing you need to do is just go visit mysoftwashstore.com, browse around, and click anything you want to.
Doug, I got a question for you. What is one of the biggest mistakes you see new pressure washing companies make when it comes to profitability?
So I was going to say, right when you were making that point about, doing $500,000 and you making 220, 250 or whatever. So, what happens a lot of times, and what's happened with me is I started upgrading, buying new equipment. Okay. And buying the newest thing that came along, and then another new thing came along, and it's just, you're seeing money. We got to outfit this. We can do this faster if we get this piece of equipment. we need this ladder attachment. We need, whatever, all kind of stuff. I got really caught up into that. Sometimes I wouldn't, have a rig that lasted me 6 or 8 months simply because I got bored with it and wanted to change and get something better. You know what I mean? So that really taught me. It took me a few years to get my brain wrapped around. And now as I'm older, I tell guys, I went through all this. I went through all these gas powered systems. I went through all these, I've had every system known to man, and most of them I've had 2 or 3 times. You go from an air system to a water booster to a gas system to a 12 volt, and then you go back and do the whole thing, the whole gamut again. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And at the end of the day, when you get older and mature and wiser and experienced, you go, this is all I need. You know what I mean? And you stick with that same system. So that's the biggest thing that I see. It can hurt profitability. It's just continually going after the newfangled shiny stuff that keeps coming out, and seeing video guys are spraying something 50, 60 feet that's not going to do any good when you got to spray straight up.
So Doug, I want you to help me. I'm a new pressure washer. I haven't bought any equipment yet. What is the basics of the equipment that I need to purchase to be able to make money inside of my pressure washing company?
The basics to get started.
Yes, sir.
It's going to depend on your budget. So I generally always will ask, what's your budget? If they say I have $15,000 to spend total, then I say, let's get you something within the $5,000 range, and let's leave $10,000 in the bank.
That's so smart.
For operating, for advertising, marketing, all the legal stuff that you got to do. So in that case, I would talk to them about a 4 gallon per minute belt drive machine, a couple of hoses, a downstream injector, a surface cleaner, and a pump up sprayer.
How much money have you seen guys make with that setup of equipment per year?
I've seen guys make, I know of one specific guy that bought that exact system, put it on a little single axle trailer, and he did nothing but door knock here in the Houston area, higher end neighborhoods, townhomes, and he would bring in anywhere between 125 to 150,000 a year. No website.
Hey, is that guy? We want to get that guy's phone number. Is he still around?
Yes, he is.
Is he a pressure washer?
Yes, he is.
We need to have that dude on the show.
It still does very well. I think he's branched and done a little bit more, like got a website. But for his first year, that's how he did it. I mean, he eventually upgraded to an 8 gallon per minute trailer rig, all of that kind of stuff. But he waited until the profits dictated when he could do it.
Yep.
He didn't he worked a whole year with that system and loved it. Took him a little bit longer than most people. As a matter of fact, when he got the 8 gallon per minute from us, he was just like absolutely blown away. Like most people are, So yeah, that's what I would suggest that's what I always suggest as a starter setup. It just depends on what they want to start with and what their budget allows, their experience level and all of that.
So do you have we go through this conversation, gotta be 8 or 10 times a year, maybe more, a strategy for just keeping your COGS super, super low without sacrificing the quality of what you're ending up cleaning?
Hey, and before you answer that, when you hear the word COGS, what all comes to your mind? So our listeners who are what's COGS?
Yeah.
Is that a log with a C on it?
Yeah. I was going to end up describing it.
So Doug, when you think of COGS inside of your business, what all would you include in your cost of goods sold?
Cost of goods sold for me is going to include, generally, it's going to include the basics, chemical purchases, hose purchases, equipment, all of that. And we kind of look at it two different ways: what it's going to cost us to be in business, and then what it costs us per job to do jobs. So that's one of the things that we work with when I mentor and coach guys, is on a personal level, is their pricing, their expenses, all of that kind of thing, because I get tired of seeing guys ask on Facebook, what should I charge?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going into business and you don't know that first, then you're going to have some problems being a profitable company. So you have to know your numbers. And so, that your cost of doing business is the first thing really that you've got to get figured out. And a lot of guys I see, and I always talk to them and I ask them, how much money do you want to make a year? And they'll say $100,000. Okay. So what's it going to take for you to pocket $100,000? Oh, I don't know. I just know there's a lot of dirty houses and dirty roofs in my area, and it looks like a gold mine. Well, there's a reason they're that way. They're not cleaning them, So you've got to sit down and work your numbers, and the cost of goods sold is hugely important to know what your expenses are, and everything that you're spending money on, basically.
Let's dive in just a little bit to the sales side. When you started replacing yourself, your company started scaling, did you immediately jump into sales, or did you hire someone to do that? And once things got moving, were you tracking your key performance indicators, in other words, your KPIs, to show you what your win percentage was and your average ticket?
I jumped immediately into sales, did all the estimates, did all the, closings. The main estimates that would go out on were bigger homes, which is what we were doing just on a daily basis. The biggest thing that I tracked is where we were getting these leads, how we were getting these. Every customer was asked, how did you find us? Well, I found you on Google. I did a Google search. Well, what did you put in the Google search? I'd ask a lot of those questions. Back then, the KPIs and all of that, I didn't really track like I should have, because we were just so busy trying to keep our schedule maintained, keep the schedule full, which keeping it full at that time wasn't really that hard, because we were booked 2 to 3 weeks out with, 2 or 3 crews or whatever. Wish that I had done a better job on the KPIs and tracking and all of that, but we were just so busy and the work was constantly just coming in that I just never really concentrated on that, but should have.
You said something a minute ago that was so secretly important. I want to make sure I touch on it. You were asking customers not only how they found out about you, but if they said Google, what were the keywords you were searching? Please tell everyone why you did that.
So in my school, I always teach these 6 most important words that you can ever say to a customer is, how did you hear about me? Okay. So you have to track that, and you have to find out not only if they just say Google, but find out what the search term is that they entered. And it may be cleaning stucco house Houston, or stucco cleaning, or pressure washing Houston, or whatever. So when they're telling you those term words, those are ones that you want to make sure that you're optimizing not only your website for those terms, but also that you're blogging on your website. You may do a blog titled Pressure Wash Houston, or Stucco Cleaning Houston, or How to Clean Stucco, that type of thing. If you've got a customer that says, Joshua Brown referred me. Okay. Well, I need to make sure I reach out to Joshua Brown, at least make a phone call and say thank you, maybe a little handwritten card. And then if I hear Joshua Brown's name 3 times in referrals, Joshua Brown's getting a thank you handwritten card with a Perry Steakhouse gift card in it. Things of that nature. So those are the easiest way to find that information out. My KPI indicators back then were just finding out how my customers found me, and then step staying on top of that and making sure that we were continually performing in those areas.
Hey, I want to thank you for taking time to listen to our podcast. We're going to break from the show for a second, and I've just got a simple question for you. Are you looking to start a pressure washing company? If so, I want to invite you to a free webinar that we do for anyone that's wanting to know everything they need to know before making a decision in starting a pressure washing company.
Yeah, sometimes thinking about jumping out on your own, you get analysis paralysis, and this free webinar will really help you with that. And there's no strings attached. It's totally free. All you've got to do is visit pressurewashingpastor.com, click start here, fill out the paperwork, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, I hope to see you in the future. Now back to your show. Doug, when you shared that information, you basically spoke something that doesn't happen anymore inside of our culture. We're so busy on being automated, where we no longer have relationships with our customers. And you just shared a tip on how every single listener can become a more profitable and purpose-driven business by just getting relational and asking those questions. And so the level of questions that we ask often reveals what we're actually thinking about. And if we're only thinking about, how much we should charge or how much money we can make, we're maybe missing the entire point completely. How did you come to realize that those 6 words were the most powerful words that you could ask a customer?
I just, I don't know if I picked it up anywhere or just started doing it, but it's habit for me. And my wife will tell you, when she speaks at our difference makers conferences, that when I talk about that, she will testify as a witness. Every phone conversation I ever hear him with a customer, how did you hear about me? I even do it in our store. Customers walk in off the street before they leave. Hey, how did you find us? It just became a habit thing. And I thought, I can mess up the address. I can mess up the phone number. I can always get that back. Okay. I can always figure that out. But I train myself, never, ever forget to ask the customer, how did you hear about me? It's so simple and easy. And it gets the customer talking about something that they did that they look at as because they think they've had a success in finding me, believe it or not. Okay. Well, they have found somebody that answers the phone and they can talk to personally. It's a success story for them. So I like to talk about how they did it and that type of thing. And it just helps to build that relationship with them.
Yeah, people may not take what you just said right there very seriously. And if I could attest to anything from this episode, there's a lot to take away. But the 2 things you just shared, one was getting information from a customer on how they found out about you is absolutely ammunition to find more customers. It's ammunition, and you can shoot at the shooting range without ever having to worry about buying more. What separates the men from the boys is people who can control lead flow. If you can learn how to control lead flow, and I think you did by asking those questions, you're going to win. And so if there's something to take away, does it take extra time? Yeah, it definitely does. Does it take extra effort? Yes, it definitely does. But if you found a way to replace portions of your time to focus on that, you're going to grow the business overall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things I always did back then too was, once the job is complete and the guys have texted me and said, we're done, got the check, they had to tell me they got paid. And one of the questions one of the things I always had to tell me is customers very happy. Okay. If they were upset or something, I wanted to know that too. But every customer I always called back after they left and said, hey, just calling to make sure that you were happy and everything looked great. Oh, yeah. Well, from when I asked, how did you hear about me? If they said in our neighborhood group or our neighborhood, whatever, say, oh, that's awesome. Would you mind putting a little plug in there for us since you're, that type of thing. So you remember those types of things, and then you can help. You can use that to help you even after the job. And then, of course, Every customer got a handwritten thank you card. Thank you so much for allowing us to clean your home. We certainly appreciate it. Very short and sweet.
I have one question for you and all the listeners. Have you ever been asked, has anyone ever come to you and said, Doug, hey, do you know this guy? Can you connect me with them? Usually when I get asked to connect, it's just surface level. It's human flesh. It feels nice to be the guy who gets to connect someone with somebody else. Your customers feel the exact same way about referring you as a trusted source from them. And so if they did have a great experience and you simply just ask, people will usually do that because they enjoy the experience of connecting people. It's just like recommending a great restaurant. I tell Josh, hey, go try this steak. He texts back, hey, it was bonkers. So good. Great. Feels good. Right. He doesn't
There's
like
nothing,
eating steak out. He likes eating steak.
Listen, if I'm going to have a steak, it's going to be at the house. There is no way that I can pay $100.
It's an example.
I'm just saying the steak I make is better.
You know what I mean? Right.
Hypothetically speaking.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, he's speaking, Joshua. Don't take it, don't get offended.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of a quote. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great. And a lot of the habits that you've learned over the years, you've started. And then once you start the habit, and that was said by Zig Ziglar, once you start it, it just becomes second nature. As we're wrapping up the show, is there any last words of advice that you'd give anybody that is starting a pressure washing company that you haven't shared already?
Well, no, I would say, okay, number one, make sure you enjoy the outdoors. Make sure you can handle heat. Okay. That's very, very important. Don't think just because you look around and see a bunch of dirty stuff that it's going to be easy and it's a quote gold mine. But the first thing is sit down and do your numbers. If you don't know how to do your numbers, sit down with somebody, a banker, a CPA, somebody in your church that is really good with money, and figure out a business plan, but get some numbers on paper, because if you need to make a salary and bring money in to support your family, you need to have a plan of how many jobs it's going to take to do per week, how many hours it's going to take, what you need to charge, that type of thing. That's the number one biggest thing that I don't see happen enough when guys are trying to start a business. They go from the backside, get all the equipment, get some business cards, go out and put business cards out, but they don't have a plan for the money end of it.
Doug, I watched this YouTube video and I actually saw it on TikTok. Well, also saw it on Instagram, that you can just rain money down. You ain't got to work really. You can just make $1 million a year. Why is that? I mean,
well, I can tell you, okay. I can tell you, and it's a big secret out there, but I'm going to reveal it. If you want to make $1 million in a year in pressure washing, here's how you do it. You ready? You got to have enough customers who are going to pay you $1 million a year.
Boom.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to know how to make $6,000 in pressure washing in one day? You need one customer that's going to pay you $6,000. You got to go get that customer, is what I'm trying to say. Don't believe all that hype that you can make millions or you can make thousands of dollars. I see all these videos, how to make $3,000 in one day in pressure washing. Well, that's pretty easy. I just need a customer that's going to pay me $3,000 to clean their house.
Come on.
Okay.
That was actually our video.
Or I need two that are going to pay me.
That was going to be the title of this video.
Or I need two that are going to pay me $1,500.
There you go.
That's all you got to have. Now you got to go out and get it.
Or I could have 60 that pay me $99, and then I could
be the 99.
There you go,
dude.
There you go.
Yeah.
But,
hey, Doug, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to ask you, as we transition, where can people find you if they want to learn more about training or buying equipment? How can they find out more about you?
For the training, they can go to pressurewashingschool.com. And then for equipment or chemical supplies, anything, they can go to our store site, which is DougRuckerStore.com.
Doug, as always, it's been a treasure chest of gold coins and knowledge and nuggets. And so we want to thank you for being on the show. And until next time, peace.